We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Daled Amud Aleph from Maseches Zvachim. This is Zvachim Daf 54a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara said that the southeastern corner of the outer Mizbeach did not have a Yesod, it did not have a base. And the Gemara said that the reason for that was because that part of the Mizbeach, it was in the territory of Yehuda, and the Mizbeach was really to be built in the territory of Binyamin, so that portion that was in the territory of Yehuda did not have a Yesod, because again, the Mizbeach was supposed to be in the territory of Binyamin. And the Gemara said in the previous Amud that Binyamin was distressed over this, that some of Yehuda's territory came into his territory, and that's the meaning of the Pasuk. The Pasuk says in Sefer Devarim, Chofef Olav Kol Hayom, which the Gemara here is interpreting as meaning that Binyamin was distressed about this, that this part of the territory was taken by Yehuda. Rashi explains Chofef Kemo Nazir Chofef Umefasfes. It's like a Nazir is Chofef, he rubs. Ka'adam HaMechashev V'doeg, like a person would scratch his head because he's distressed. That's how the Gemara is interpreting this pasuk. And the Gemara continues, Lafikach, therefore Zacha Binyamin, because he was distressed over that, Zacha Binyamin Hatzadik V'nase Ushpizchan LaHaKadosh Baruch Hu. Binyamin Hatzadik, he merited that he became a host to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar, as it says, Uvein Kseifa of Shachen, that he dwells, the Shechina dwells between his shoulders, and again that's a reference to the territory of Binyamin. And the Gemara continues, Meisvei, we have a question from the following Brisa. This is a question on the idea that the southeastern corner of the outer Mizbeach had no Yesod, had no base. The Brisa says, Olas ha'of, with regards to the Karbonola, that's a bird Karbonola, Ketzad ha'isanasis, what was the procedure? Ha'yamolik esroshim imol arpa, the Kohen would do the malika from the back of the neck, umavdil, and separate the head from the body in that fashion, umimatze dom al kir ha'mizbeach, and then he would squeeze the blood on the wall of the Mizbeach. And so the Gemara asks, V'yamrid lo haya lo yesod. Now, if you say there was no base, ba'avira bi'alma hu dekavid, it would come out that he's doing that over the airspace. He's not doing it over the mizbeach, which is supposed to be what's supposed to be done. Rashi explains, Umavdil, he would separate b'shtei simonim. The idea over here is he would separate with two simonim. By a bird karbonola, they would cut two of the simonim that are in the throat, that are in the neck. V'lo kechatos, not like a chatos, she b'simen echad, where they only cut one of the simonim, not two of the simonim, so it was like a full separation, so to speak, by the ola. Umematza midama dochik beis malikaso lakir, he would push that area where he did the malika and the blood was coming out, he would push it against the wall of the Mizbeach, and that way he would squeeze out the blood, and the blood would run down the wall of the Mizbeach. And later we will say, Shal Karen Mizrachis Duromis Hinasis, that we're bringing the question here based on the fact that this was really done on the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach. That's exactly the corner of the Mizbeach that we're talking about. V'ein lo yesod, now if there was no base of the Mizbeach at that area, Nimsa Keshumolka Ba'avir Hinimlekes, it would come out when he's doing the Malika, would just descend and go straight to the ground. That's what it means, the airspace. It wouldn't fall to the Mizbeach. V'hadam nofel la'aretz li, but the blood would just fall to the ground. It would go to destruction, so to speak, and that would not be appropriate. So it seems like there is a Yesod, there is a base of the Mizbeach at that part of the Mizbeach. Now Rashi notes, Vim Tomar, if you'll ask the following question, Nofel al hasovev, really the Kohen, when he was doing the Malika, he was standing on the Sovev, which was the ledge of the Mizbeach, so he really was, the blood should have been dripping onto the Sovev, Sharei Lamala Hinasis, because this was done again on the upper part of the Mizbeach. Hakatani Hasam Asol Lamatame Raglav Afilu Amachas Kshera. The answer to that is, we're going to say over there that if he would do the Malika even below his feet, he would bend down and do it, so below the ledge, even an Amma below, it's still kosher. The low kapid Ella Alamala Min Hachut, because really it only has to be above the Chut HaSikra, it doesn't actually have to be above the ledge, and so therefore he has that space even below, and it is possible he would have done the Malika and squeezed out the blood below the Sovev, and again, if there's no Yesod, if there's no base, so it's just Ba'avira Bi'alma, so it seems like there is a Yesod, there is a base even by the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach. And the Gemara continues and says, Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, Amor kach hisnu avira de Binyamin karka de Yehuda. What we'll say is they stipulated it was the airspace of Binyamin, but it was the karka, the land of Yehuda. And Rashi explains the answer, Amor kach v'ikol amamra, what you could say is as follows, Lemala mi gimel, above 3, meaning 3 tvachim or more above the ground, the lav karku, so it's high enough that it's not considered part of the ground, also he come in blita ketana, the way Rashi understands the answer of the Gemara is, as long as they were off the ground a little, that's avira de Binyamin, as long as they were in the airspace and not in the karka, they were able to construct a little ledge over there. So there was no yesod, but there was something, some kind of protrusion that was that was sticking out of the Mizbeach, Keneged Osa HaKeren, by that corner, Lekabil Bo Dam Ola Sa'ov Shelo Yipo La'aretz, in order to receive that blood of the bird Ola, so it shouldn't fall to the earth. Vikir Mizbeach Mikri, that was called the wall of the Mizbeach. Aval Yesod Lo Mikri, it wasn't a Yesod, it wasn't a base. Lahachshir HaKeren Lamatan Domim, Hatzrichen Li Nosin Keneged HaYesod, because again, there are certain applications of blood that have to be done where there's a Yesod. So would this qualify as a Yesod? No, it would not qualify as a Yesod, but it would qualify as Kir Mizbeach, and it would receive this blood. She'ein Yesod Ela HaMiyusad Ba'aretz. Rashi says a Yesod, it can only be called a Yesod if it's built into the ground, then it's referred to as a Yesod, as a base. And the Gemara continues, Ma'ilo Havalo Yesod, what exactly does it mean that the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach did not have a Yesod? On that we have a Machlokas Amoraim. Rav Amarav says Bibinyan, it really means in terms of construction, it literally had no Yesod. And Levi Amar B'Damim, Levi says no, there actually was a Yesod there physically, there was a base, but in terms of Damim, in terms of the bloods, it was not counted as a Yesod. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. Rav Metargim, Rav translated the pasuk by the Targum, by the pasuk of Binyamin Ze'ev Yitraf. He translates Ba'achasante Yosvane Madbecha, that in his portion, that's where the Mizbeach is, meaning physically, entirely, the Mizbeach is in the portion of Binyamin, and therefore there was no base in that territory which belonged to Yehuda. But Levi Metargim, he translated as follows, Ba'achasante Yosvane Maktasha, that over there, in his portion was the Mikdash, meaning Makom Mekudash Ledamim, meaning the area that was sanctified for the blood, meaning there was a physical base, but it was not considered the Yesod as far as the halachos of Damim are concerned. Rashi explains, Rav Amar Bebinyan, Bekeren Deromis Ma'aravis Banu HaYesod, Ama Ba'orach Hadorom, they built the Yesod in the southwestern corner, and it went one Ama in the south, V'chadu Lehem Kol Hadorom, but the rest of the south, there was no, the rest of the southern wall of the Mizbeach, there was no physical Yesod. V'chol HaMizrach Ad Aman, the same thing by the east, Samach L'Keren Sfonis Mizrachis, by that northeastern corner on the east side, also it was just an Ama, Keda Amran Ochel B'Mizrach Ama, U'V'Darom Ama, it was just one Amma in the Mizrach and one Amma in the Darom, and then therefore the whole rest of the way in the Mizrach and the Darom, there was no Yesod. That's why the southeastern corner had no Yesod. Levi Amar B'Damim, Levi says, no, we're talking about in terms of blood. Yesod Hayal Pnei Kolam Mizrach. There was a Yesod, the whole east. Avalon Nosnin Damim B'Chalko Shal Yehuda, but they wouldn't do the applications of blood in the portions in the territory of Yehuda. Yosvene Madbecha, so again, the question, what Targum you had over there, according to Rav, the Targum was that the Mizbeach was there. Binyana Gufei Mashma, the Binyan itself was all in the territory of Binyamin, meaning again there was no physical Yesod in the territory of Yehuda. But again, according to Levi, there was no makom mekudash ledamim. There was no place sanctified for the applications of blood, but there was in fact a physical yesod, even in the territory that belonged to Yehuda, according to Levi. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here a proof with regards to this Machlokas Amoraim from the following Mishnah in Meseches Midos. It says, Hayesod Hayamalech al Pnei Kol Hatzafon v'al Pnei Kol Hamayrev. The base of the Mizbeach went along the entire northern and western walls. Ochel B'Darom Amachas uV'Mizrach Amachas. And then in terms of the southern wall, it was just one Amma. In terms of the eastern wall, just one Amma. It certainly sounds like Rav that there was no Yesod. There was no physical Yesod, no physical base by the southeastern corner of the Mizbeach. And the Gemara says, "My ochel nami bedamim." What's Levi going to say? What does it mean? Ochel is ochel bedarim ama'achas uva mizrach ama'achas. It means in terms of the blood. It was not considered the yesod in terms of the applications of the blood, but there was actually a physical yesod over there. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here another proof from the same Mishnah in Meseches Midos. HaMizbeach haya shloshim ushtayim al shloshim ushtayim. It says the Mizbeach was 32 amos by 32 amos. Now, if it's 32 amos by 32 amos, that sounds like it was a perfect square, including the Yesod, and that seems to support Levi. And the Gemara says to that, Hacha b'mayaskiran min hatzad. Here, when we're saying 32 by 32, we're talking about measuring from the sides with the Yesod. So we're not talking about, when we're not talking about measuring by the southeastern. By those corners, we're talking about, again, by the north and by the west, and those parts, there was a Yesod, it was 32 by 32. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here a proof from the following brisa to Levi's position that there was a yesod around the entirety of the Mizbeach. It says in the brisa, Nimsa poreach amal yesod v'amal sovev. It says that the ramp, which was on the southern side of the Mizbeach, it went over one amma over the yesod and one amma over the sovev, over the ledge, and that sounds like there was a yesod over there, which again, the ramp was on top of that yesod. And the Gemara says, Ema keneged amma yesod v'al amma sovev. Just read the brisa. It really should say corresponding to the amma where there would have been a yesod, but there was no actual yesod. That's how Rav will understand the brisa. And then again, it did overhang the sovev by an amma. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Tashma, come and hear the following proof. To Tani Levi, because Levi taught as follows. Levi brought a brisa as follows. Ketzad bonin as mizbeach. How did they build the mizbeach? Mevian malben shu shloshim mushtayim al shloshim mushtayim. First, they brought essentially a square frame that was 32 amos by 32 amos. V'gov ho amma, and it was 1 amma high. In that frame, that's where they would put these stones of the base of the mizbeach. Umevi chalukei avonim mefulamos ben gedolos ben katanos, and they brought damp stones, whether they were large, whether they were small. Umevi sid v'kunya v'zefes, they brought various kinds of plaster and pitch. Umemache v'shofech, and they filled it all up. They filled that entire frame. V'zehu makom yesod. This was the area of the yesod. Already it seems to be a proof to Levi's position, because it's 32 amos by 32 amos. It seems that the yesod completely went around the entire mizbeach. And the brisa continues, v'chozer mevi malben shu shloshim amma al shloshim amma. Then they brought again another frame that was 30 amos by 30 amos, v'govo chamesh amos, and it was a height of 5 amos. Umevi chaluki avonim v'chulu, and again they brought various stones, put it in the frame, etc. And they did the same thing. V'chozer mevi malben shu chavches al chavches amos. Then they brought another frame, 28 amos by 28 amos, v'govo gimel amos, which was 3 amos high. Umevi chaluki v'chulu, and again filled that with stone, etc. V'hu makom ha'ma'aracha, that was the area of the ma'aracha where they would have the fires that would be on the mizbeach. V'chozru mevi malbin shu amma al amma, then they would bring another frame that was an amma by an amma. This is going to be for the corners. Umevi chilukei avonim mefulamos ben gedolos ben katanos. Again, they would bring these stones, whether large or small, and fill that area. Umevi zefes v'kunyu memacha v'shofech, and again they would fill it in with pitch, etc. V'zehu karen, and that made up a corner of the mizbeach. V'chein l'chol karen v'karen, and that was true from every corner. And the Gemara says, V'chiteiman, if you're going to say, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video, Adaf Nun Dalid Amud Beis.